We have two items on the docket. One under consent, which is B. Braun U.S. Pharmaceutical Manufacturing LLC 4780-5, and then the University of California, Los Angeles, case number 5708-3. We have two members of the hearing board participating remotely. That's Dr. Abraham and Mr. Pearman. I'd like to ask you, gentlemen, if in fact you've properly posted your notifications pursuant to the Brown Act?
Yes,
Yes,
correct.
sir. And no one else is present here.
Thank you, sir. And no one is present in either of your locations?
Correct.
Perfect. All right. Mr. Clerk, as well as Madam Clerk, are there any individuals online to provide any public comment and/or evidentiary testimony? No. Let the record reflect that there are none, and let the record also reflect that no one has appeared in person to provide any commentary, whether it be regular and/or evidentiary, with respect to any of these matters that are before the hearing board today. All right, who do we have representing the executive office?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am Brian Thomas-Sovic, Assistant Chief Deputy Counsel, representing the executive officer today.
Okay, and the petitioner is represented by?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm Maya Lopez-Gross from Alston and Bird, representing UCLA.
All right, we would go ahead and kick it over to you, Counselor, with respect to UCLA. I do believe you have a witness. So why don't we go ahead and just swear that person and provide the oath. Mr. Grant Martin.
Yes.
I believe if you would either raise your right hand or stand or do however you want to do it, but we need to get your oath. Hold on one second, I just had a little computer issue. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on one second.
Mr. Chair, did you want opening statements or should we just defer to closings?
No, I wanted to administer, why don't we go ahead and just do openings and I'll get my computer together. Appreciate that, Mr. Thomas-Sovic. I'll go right ahead, Counselor, and I'll work on this while you're talking.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the hearing board. The Health and Safety Code, section 42351.5, allows the hearing board to grant an interim authorization to modify a schedule of increments of progress when the petitioner is unable to notify the hearing board sufficiently in advance to hold a publicly noticed hearing. The statute provides that the interim authorization can only be granted one time and provide relief for no longer than 30 days. We appreciate the district and the hearing board considering this request by UCLA on the compressed time frame that it is, and also appreciate the accommodation allowing UCLA's witness, Mr. Grant Martin, to appear remotely given the compressed time frame. We believe there's good cause for the board to grant the interim authorization that UCLA requests. As the board may recall, UCLA is close to completing a critical milestone in a years-long multi-million-dollar project to replace the two main units in its cogeneration plant that provides power and steam to the UCLA campus, including the research facilities, as well as the Ronald Reagan Hospital. That milestone is the completion of testing, ultimately, and taking ownership of and bringing online the new Unit A, as we've been referring to it, which will provide power so that the old Unit B, for which the variance has been granted, can be taken offline and then subsequently replaced with a new Unit B in the coming year. UCLA is on track to meet the existing variance's final compliance deadline of March 28th, 2025, and has made great progress in meeting almost all of its increments of progress on schedule, including various testing, except for increment of progress 2B, which is the reliability testing, which is why UCLA is before you today. As explained in the petition, and as you'll hear from the witness, UCLA began its reliability testing in early January, anticipating it would be completed in time for the January 31st deadline. However, it ran into a couple of setbacks 2 different times that it's had to deal with, and that has subsequently meant that it can't meet the January 31st deadline. It's running on a 7-day reliability testing schedule. So the new unit has to run reliably for 7 days pursuant to specifications in the contract. UCLA is going to resume reliability testing this week in hopes that it will be completed within 7 days without any events. But given what's happened so far and the nature of reliability testing, UCLA is asking for an extension of that January 31st deadline to February 28th, which is within the 30 days allowed by the interim authorization. And I would also like to ask that we incorporate testimony and exhibits from the prior hearings into evidence for this hearing, as well as request that we enter into evidence the recent exhibit that was the chronology impacting this increment of progress as well. And we appreciate the board's time and the district's time in consideration of this request.
Are there any objections from Mr. Tomasovic with respect to her request?
No objection to admitting, I believe what's been marked as Exhibit 13.
Yes, and so let us mark that very quickly as one exhibit. And one exhibit entered into the record, and so there's an exhibit titled UCLA Petition for Interim Authorization to Extend January 31st, 2025 Deadline of Increment of Progress 2B. That's marked as Exhibit 13, Exhibit 13. And so that details the chronology as stated by the counselor. And so your request will most certainly be included as a part of the record, and previous testimony will indeed and in fact be included as well. All right, Mr. Tomasovic, the floor is yours, sir.
Morning again. The district today would not oppose the granting of the requested interim authorization for modification of the schedule of increments of progress. Concur with council's presentation that there is the statutory reference that puts us in this posture, Health and Safety Code Section 42351.5. In terms of checking boxes for eligibility on that, the only thing to add is this is not a case requesting extension of a final compliance date. And this is not a case where, looking at the original variance granted, there was any requirement for advance application for modification of an increment of progress. So far, so good on that. In terms of the standard of good cause, there's a separate statutory section for that as well, 42357. And as we know, good cause means different things potentially in different settings, but here the statute gives examples, including a change in availability of materials and equipment. And on the face of the petition, they're mentioning some hiccups with ductwork and all that seems to cleanly fall within that possibility. The district today does not intend to call any witnesses and does not expect to have a lengthy concluding closing statement.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to go ahead and provide the oath to our friend Michael Grant Martin. Right, there you go. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence that you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very kindly, sir. Counselor, here's your witness.
Thank you. Mr. Grant Martin, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Michael Grant Martin. That's Michael. Grant Martin is GRANT-MARTIN.
Thank you. Could you please tell me your role at UCLA?
I am a senior project manager for the Capital Programs Group. We develop major construction and renovation projects on campus.
Thank you. And what is your role with respect to this particular project, the cogeneration replacement?
I am the project manager for this project, responsible for its budget, schedule, and successful delivery.
Okay, thank you. And so we'll go ahead and start with what's happened since the last hearing. Did you complete and meet the schedule of increments of progress except for 2B with respect to the commissioning and the testing requirements
Yes,
and
we
milestones?
have. Yes, we
Okay.
have completed those. Yes.
Thank you. And could you please talk a little bit about the chronology of the events that occurred with respect to the reliability testing? And you can refer to the chronology that's been entered into evidence as well, and just walk
Sure.
us through what happened, please.
Sure. So the morning of January 7th, we started our round of reliability testing, which essentially, as you mentioned, Counselor, the unit has to run by our spec for 7 consecutive days with no issues. Early that evening, I should say, about 6 o'clock, we had the unit, as it was running, trip offline, essentially shutting itself down due to a voltage drop coming from the LADWP grid. Even though we're in testing on the unit is still attached to the LADWP grid. That was fairly unusual in that case. So the unit was shut down. We inspected it for damage immediately to see what was going on with it. We started communication with the engineers and manufacturers, trying to understand why this level of voltage drop would cause the unit to essentially shut itself down. That took several days of back and forth with the engineers. We have identified what we believe is the cause, and we'll adjust the settings to that unit, Unit A, and our Unit B, which will also be starting here up in the next few weeks, the new Unit B. We started a second round of reliability testing about mid-January, January 17. 2 or 3 days into that reliability test, we were notified by the contractor by email we were experiencing what they called excessive heat from one of the ducts from our heat recovery steam generation system. The unit had to be shut down, obviously. We had to wait about 24 hours for it to cool down. Peeled off the insulation around the duct where we were experiencing that heat. What we noticed was the welds had cracked at the 4 corners of the duct, immediately indicating a thermal expansion failure. The engineers got on that issue. We removed the duct, obviously. The engineers got on that, went back to the fabricator of that duct work, looked at the design elements. We have corrected the design. The duct went into fabrication, I believe, 22nd or 23rd of January. A few days to get it refabricated. The duct is back on site today. The duct is being installed as we speak right now. We have to re-insulate it, obviously, fully re-insulate it. So by the end of the day, the plan is to have that duct completely installed, restart the unit, may go through a few rounds of checks to make sure there's nothing unusual with the unit. And then tomorrow morning, start our 7-day reliability test again. And hopefully we'll be able to run it for 7 days without incident.
Thank you very much for running through that chronology. And just for the record, is there any reason why you would want to delay reliability testing other than unforeseen issues that you need to troubleshoot?
No, absolutely not. We are very anxious to move this along for a number of reasons, but no, we are very anxious to begin reliability testing and complete it successfully. Completion of reliability testing for Unit A allows us to move into the acceptance phase for Unit A, which ultimately allows us to remove Unit B from service, which we're operating under a variance right now, and bring us into full compliance, which is the goal of the project.
Yep.
So no, we are very motivated to get through reliability testing and the rest of the phase of this project.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask you one question, and District Council may have a clarifying question, but I understand since this would go beyond the schedule of increments of progress, would UCLA be willing to voluntarily notify the district to the staff that's listed in the variance to whom you've been notifying other obligations in the variance? Would you be willing to voluntarily let them know when you complete the ductwork reinstallation first, and then second, when you resume reliability testing?
Absolutely. I think you're referring to the permit engineers that would be the people that we would notify, the people that are listed in our permit.
Yes, that's correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If the district would like that, absolutely, we'd be willing to do that for sure.
Okay, thank you. And then last question, based on your work to date on the variance, do you anticipate being able to meet the final compliance deadline of March 28th, 2025?
We do anticipate meeting that date. Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions for the witness.
All right, Mr. Thomas Sobert.
No questions for the witness, but for the record, we do appreciate those courtesy notifications. If you could, on those two items, email the inspector and AQ engineer. Email addresses are in condition 9. Thank you.
Will do. That's within, could you clarify the time you all would like to have that notification?
Within reasonable time, 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
whatever.
Okay, got it.
All right, members of the hearing board, any questions? Mr. Balakapalam.
Morning, Mr. Martin.
Morning.
I know, I just had a question, maybe it's for council. You're suggesting a couple of courtesy notification. Do you want that in the condition, or is just a courtesy that's not reflected? Let me ask you this, what is the revision to the existing condition? Because there is a change from, the increment of progress, so we need to make a change.
We're, thank you, Member Balagapalan. We're only requesting it by courtesy and not as a requirement or a change of variance conditions. And that's just because of the narrow no notice posture we're in, where only the increment of progress could be changed. So
Okay, that's what I was getting at. So we do need to modify I don't have the finding and decision document, but we only have the, what is the other one? The
minute order.
minute order, so that has to be changed, condition number 2, right? Completion of the following event by January 31st, change to February 28th. Basically, that's the change that you're requesting.
Yes, that's the change just to the schedule of that one increment of progress.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just as a courtesy, there is a minute order at the back of the petition for the hearing date of 12/19. So I don't know whether you were referring to that or the.
Yeah, I
other.
was looking at that.
Okay.
28th, 2025. Because the final compliance date, as you indicated, will remain the same. So just one other question, Mr. Martin. You indicated there was a damage to the ductwork in what was the main reason? I know you mentioned it, I missed it, for the heat, excessive heat.
Yeah, it was thermal expansion. The units, obviously they get extremely hot. They exceed 1200 degrees Fahrenheit at the heat recovery steam generation system. And the wells were under designed. So the wells have now been redesigned to accommodate the heat. It was that simple, thank goodness.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get, when you say under design, was the ductwork not adequate diameter, or was it the, what
No,
was
it was the
design
weld
flaw?
itself. It was the weld. It appears it was the welds themselves. This is a
okay.
prefabricated ductwork that was essentially fabricated off-site at the fabricator's shop. The design tolerances were done by engineers 6 months, 8 months ago. The welds were done off-site. When we got out there and ran the unit up to full temp, the welds simply didn't hold. They simply didn't hold. The duct itself, the walls of the duct didn't crack, the steel, the plates themselves, it was at the weld. So again, the welds were redesigned to a new tolerance, and we'll get them in place. And once we fire it up, we assume and understand that the welds will hold, and we'll be able to continue on with reliability.
And there's temperature monitoring on that area?
That's
to
great. Oh, absolutely. The full system's monitored.
Monitor. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
No problem.
Any additional questions? All right, off to closing. MLG, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, members of the board and the district. I think the testimony supports the information that was previewed in the petition and that there's good cause to grant this interim authorization to modify the schedule as contemplated by the provisions in the statute. And we appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Thomas Hilbert?
Thank you. After the receipt of the evidence, the district maintains its position of not opposing the granting of the requested modification.
Thank you, sir. Members of the board on deliberation. Mr. Balakapalan.
Yes, I mean, that's the reason why I think the Health and Safety Code has this interim authorization for incremental progress, because sometimes these things cannot be met. And I think based on the chronology, and I appreciate getting the chronology, clearly when January 17, you don't have the required 21 days to meet the notice meeting. So that's why you have the interim authorization. And as you indicated, only one can be granted and not more than 30 days. They're not asking for more than 30 days. And also the second criteria is that final compliance date is not extended. So that's still not extended. It's still staying at March 28th. So I believe I can find good cause based on the information provided to grant this interim authorization.
Any additional comments from members of the board? And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also can find good cause. I appreciate the explanation from Mr. Grant Martin, because I think that shows us that they are doing the best that they can, their due diligence. And I do appreciate very much the chronology, because that gives us a snapshot of what really is going on and what dates were listed for each of the events. So thank you very much for that. That really is helpful. And nothing further other than I do find good cause.
All right, any additional comments from members of the board?
I can make the motion.
I can make it very quickly in the matter of UCLA, case number 5708-3. I move that we find good cause to grant an interim, to grant the modification known as interim authorization as set forth in the petition as well as in Exhibit 13, the chronology. Is there a second?
Well, I think we want to clarify that we're amending the condition to reflect that the date, condition number 2, that I think it's condition number 3. I'm sorry. Let me pick up the condition number. For the increment of progress shall be changed from completion of the event by February 28, 2025.
Yes,
Reflect that, yeah.
yes,
Instead of changing the timing, just to.
Right.
That's gonna reflect what happened for today.
And the new date,
that would be a lot cleaner.
Is that acceptable?
yeah.
All right. So you have the motion down?
Yes.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Ali, second by Ms. Verdugo Peralta. Any further question or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Dr. Abraham?
Aye.
Ms. Verdugo Peralta?
Aye.
Mr. Balakapalan?
Aye.
Mr. Perman?
Aye.
Ali votes in the affirmative, and the matter is hereby approved unanimously. You guys have a phenomenal morning. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
All right.
Nice to see you again, Brian. We haven't seen you in a while.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, come back at, why don't we just come back at 10:10? We're off the record.
Rosalinda, are you there? Or James? Mohan? Nobody there. Oh, there you are. I just want to let you know that one of the microphones from the attorneys is on, so the camera goes back there every time. So if someone can turn one of those microphones off, the camera should stay on you on the board.
I think he's talking, but maybe one of them left it on.
Okay, Mr. Day, oh, they turned the okay, I hear what you're saying, Balaka Palan. The microphones are on over there.
We had it on mute. I don't see anything.
There it is there.
Okay, Mr. Perriman, are you ready? All right, Mr. Day, we're back. Okay, I'd like to call this hearing to order, or reconvene this hearing, if you will, at 10:15 a.m. We have one case that is before the body, or the final case, as it were. B. Braun, U.S. Pharmaceutical Manufacturing LLC 4780-5, modification of final compliance date and extension of variance pursuant to Rule 2003, 1134, 2004, and 3002. Just to be very clear, no one has sought recognition to provide public comment and evidentiary testimony, and no one is before the body in person to provide any comments as stated. And so I'm going to mark the exhibits. There are several exhibits. So the first exhibit is 24, which is email between John Furlong and Paulo Langani. And so that's exhibit 24. Exhibit 25 is email traffic between Maya Jurgensen and AQMD representative Paulo Longoni. Number 26, exhibit 26 is correspondence from the Department of Health and Human Services to Wayne Nash, Executive Officer, and Ali, the Chair, as dated December 26, 2024. And that's signed by Paige Ezernak, Ezernack, Director, Defense Production Act and Emergency Response Authorities Office, Center for Industrial Base Management and Supply Chain. Okay. Moving on down to 27 is a stipulation to place the item on consent calendar. Again, Exhibit 27 is a stipulation to place the matter on consent calendar. Exhibit 28 is a declaration of Tim, you're correct. Tim Hellum in support of B. Braun, U.S. Pharmaceutical Manufacturing's petition. Number 29 is another declaration in support of B. Braun from Peter Klaus, Klaes. Another declaration in support of B. Braun is from, I'm going to spell the name. First name is Aniekan, last name Udobot.
That'll be 30.
That's 30.
Process.
Exhibit number 31 is a declaration of Maya Jurgensen, Maia, middle name, Jurgensen is the last name, in support of B. Braun, U.S. Pharmaceutical. That's Exhibit 31. And then Exhibit 32 is the proposed findings and decisions of the hearing board. Again, that's Exhibit 32. Are there any comments or deliberation from any member of the board?
Sure, I can start.
Okay, Dr.
So,
Abraham?
Chair Ali, I had a question. So how do you, when you look at this proposed findings and decision, is that document prepared by both parties or is it prepared by AQMD? And then Braun said, I agree with this. I just couldn't figure out what I'm looking at with the proposed
Yeah,
findings.
so
and
they've
decision.
stipulated to this
Mhm.
agreement, so both of them have reviewed and have concurred.
But is it ever clear who actually wrote the document? Which party? Or is
The
it always
petitioner, the
AQMD?
petitioner wrote this document
I see. Okay.
and the district
So
replied
I would
accordingly.
just add that, clearly Hurricane Helene was a major event and it severely affected the supply chain across the country, affecting our care and hospitals and access to IV solutions. And so totally understand the request that was made by HHS and its agency to increase production. And so not only the economic loss to Braun, but really concerns putting the safety and health of people and patients. So for those reasons, and we've seen this party before. So I agree with this proposal.
All right, Mr. Balakapalan, so I saw you moving for your microphone, sir, the
Oh, no,
floor.
I was going to,
Okay, all right.
I know, because you made the motion last time. I thought you wanted to start the
No, no,
discussion.
No, it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Are you good for discussion?
Yeah, I agree
Okay.
with, I'm just going to add what Dr. Abrams said, that they were initially supposed to come into compliance and get everything done by end of January, but now they ask, because of circumstances beyond their control and due to the Hurricane Helene, that, and they have to continue to operate. They cannot shut down even for 4 days, basically, to do the switchover. Switch yard B is operating, they're generating 2.8 megawatt, but switch yard A, which they have to shut down to turn it over, because if they shut down, it'll affect production, so they want to, so they're asking until the demand or the agencies that are involved say, okay, we're okay, you can do the shutdown and transfer, get the fuel cell online. But until then, they're requesting that the incremental progress until end of September 30th, 2025. So basically, just give them adequate cushion to keep producing as needed, as requested also by the different agencies. So I do find good cause to extend the final compliance date to September 30th, 2025.
Okay, Ms. Verdugo Peralta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to make note of the fact that in regard to the fuel cells, it's not just a matter when you're looking at the findings and decisions in number 6 and 7, it's not just a matter of getting power from the utility, Southern California Edison. It's also the quality of the power that they have to make sure that they have for those fuel cells. So I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you.
Chair Ali, can I add one more point
Dr.
there?
Abraham, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll just say that this case really does highlight the sensitivities around not only climate change and then how it has those trickle-down effects and impacts health and safety, but in this case, not only the fragility of our healthcare supply chains and, what are the forces, economic forces perhaps, that cause that event. And then if all of your marbles are in that one facility in North Carolina that gets disrupted, then we don't have the capacity across the country. And I think the wildfires is another example of how fragile a lot of not only our air quality is, but how all of these changes are impacting our communities. And so now we're having to pin, do we have IV solutions for hospitals and patients? And in exchange, we do have to allow this particular, variance. And so that's an unfortunate decision in place that we're in. And I hope people think about this a little harder, that when we always put profits ahead of people, we'll constantly have to figure out which is more important to us, our clean air or whether or not we have access to essential medicines.
If I may.
Mr. Balakapalan.
Sorry, I wanted to add
Go right ahead, sir.
a couple of things. One, it's not to their benefit to extend it, but they're doing it because of this need for it, because they have to continue to pay excess emission fee until September 30th. Plus now it looks like they had to renegotiate with Bloom Energy, the folks that for the fuel cell, and actually pay a higher kilowatt hour price to them because of the delay in transferring it over. So it's not something that they're doing it, to delay on purpose. So it's beyond their control, and because of there's an urgent need nationally for this medical supply. So I just wanted to add that also.
All right. In the matter of B. Braun U.S. Pharmaceutical Manufacturing LLC Facility ID number 117290, case number 4780-5, I move that we find good cause to grant the request for modification of final compliance date and extension of variance as set forth in the proposed findings and decisions document Exhibit 32. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Abraham. Any further question or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Abraham,
Aye.
Verdugo Peralta,
Aye.
Paula Capellan,
Yes.
Chairman.
Aye.
Ali votes in the affirmative. The matter is hereby approved unanimously. Thank you for your time today. Thank the clerk's office for working very diligently on this particular matter. We're off the record at 10:25 a.m. and adjourned.
Thank you.